Have you ever felt it? That strange, electric hum in the fabric of reality. A moment when the universe seems to lean in and whisper a secret meant only for you. You think of a long-lost friend, and moments later, your phone rings with their name on the screen. You're grappling with a problem, and the answer appears as if by magic on a billboard or in the chance words of a stranger. We call them coincidences, accidents, strokes of luck. But deep down, a part of you knows better. These are not random events. They are echoes, reflections of a conversation you are having with the cosmos, whether you are aware of it or not. These moments of impossible synchronicity are not just charming quirks of existence. They are fissures in the code of our perceived reality. They are proof that your consciousness is beginning to operate on a frequency that transcends the rigid, predictable programming of the world. What if these events were more than just signs? What if they were signals confirming that you are beginning to awaken from a collective dream, a perceptual prison that holds the rest of the world in a state of slumber? There is a hidden architecture to these coincidences, a silent, mathematical language that very few have learned to decipher. Synchronicities are the glitches in the matrix that reveal the system's true nature, and they are the irrefutable evidence of your own liberation. Once you understand this, reality will never look the same again. For centuries, we have been sold a dangerous and incomplete map of the spiritual journey. This map depicts a flawless, linear ascent, a steady, uninterrupted climb from the shadows of ignorance into the perpetual sunlight of enlightenment. It's a beautiful idea, but it is a fiction, and this fiction is the source of immeasurable frustration and self-doubt for millions of seekers. How many times have you felt a moment of profound connection, a peak of inner peace and clarity, only to find yourself, days or even hours later, pulled back into the depths of old anxieties, fears, and frustrations? You feel destabilized, questioning every step you've taken, wondering if you've made any real progress at all. These oscillations, these rhythmic cycles of expansion and contraction, are not a sign of your failure. They are the very engine of your evolution. They are a necessary momentum, a process of purification and strengthening that is fundamental to authentic growth. The great spiritual masters of history rarely spoke of their own moments of doubt, their own vibrational valleys. The records we have predominantly showcase the summit of their realization, creating a curated illusion of a constant, unwavering ascent. This partial narrative creates an impossible standard, leaving modern seekers feeling inadequate as they navigate the natural, fluctuating tides of their own energy. Who benefits from this incomplete story? Not the individual seeking genuine transformation. This paradigm of linear growth is a sophisticated system of control. When we are conditioned to interpret our energetic ebbs as personal failures, we become trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of inadequacy. We seek external solutions, gurus, products, therapies, to fix what was never broken. The spiritual marketplace, a multi-billion-dollar industry, thrives on this misunderstanding. It offers to sell you a permanent peak, to eliminate the uncomfortable but essential reality of the fall. But the secret that the oldest esoteric traditions have always understood is that the falls themselves contain the energetic codes for your liberation. The most ancient texts on consciousness, from the Hermetic teachings to the Gnostic Gospels, never described spiritual development as a straight line. They described it as an expanding spiral, a dance composed of infinite contractions and expansions. The journey isn't about eliminating the falls, it is about learning to integrate them. The great illusion is not the fall itself, but the belief that the fall is a mistake. This single, flawed belief has obscured the profound transformative power contained within the very oscillations we have been taught to fear and avoid. Let's dismantle this outdated map. The idea of an uninterrupted climb to spiritual heights is a simplification that borders on caricature. It transforms a process that is organic, complex, and breathtakingly intelligent into a one-dimensional pursuit of light that paradoxically keeps us trapped in the dark. The Corpus Hermeticum, in its original, unadulterated form, described the evolution of the soul not as a battle between light and shadow, but as an alchemical marriage between them. It is a sacred dance where every element, every frequency, serves the greater purpose of awakening. Over time, this multidimensional wisdom was flattened, simplified for public consumption, and replaced by the comforting but hollow promise of a continuous ascent. Why does this simplified narrative persist? Because it offers a false sense of psychological security. A seeker who believes their journey should be a constant upward climb becomes deeply vulnerable when they inevitably experience a contraction. This vulnerability creates a dependency on external authority figures who claim to hold the key to unblocking their progress. But there are no blockages. There is only the natural rhythm of cosmic breath. The universe expands and it contracts. The tides come in and they go out. Your consciousness does the same. True spiritual expansion operates on a principle of inclusion, not exclusion. It is not about eliminating the lower frequencies of your being, but about expanding your awareness to consciously embrace and integrate them into a more complex, harmonic synthesis. An ancient Gnostic text, discovered in the sands of Nag Hammadi, states it plainly. True elevation happens through the integration of that which is seemingly low. This fundamental principle has been systematically marginalized by dominant spiritual narratives, creating generations of seekers at war with their own nature, endlessly striving to amputate the very parts of themselves that hold the keys to their wholeness. Think about your own experience. What happens after a period of intense clarity or joy? Isn't there an almost inevitable descent into older, more familiar states of being? This is not regression, it is integration. Your expanded consciousness is now strong enough to return to previously abandoned territories of your psyche, old patterns, limiting beliefs, unprocessed emotions, and reclaim the energy trapped there. This ability to consciously dive back into the depths is an evolutionary achievement, not a failure. It is a rescue mission. Without this cyclical, rhythmic movement, spiritual development becomes hollow, fragmented, and ultimately unsustainable. Ancient shamanic traditions understood this principle implicitly. Anthropological records document indigenous rituals that deliberately induce controlled energetic falls, creating a sacred space for the psyche to recover its fractured parts. These cultures recognize that the integrity of the soul is not found in a permanent state of elevation, but in the capacity of one's awareness to expand far enough to encompass all vibrational levels, from the densest earth to the most refined ether. This understanding shatters the linear paradigm. When we reinterpret our energetic fluctuations not as obstacles but as essential components of growth, the entire spiritual journey is transformed. It ceases to be a struggle against ourselves and becomes a dance with ourselves. The movement of rising and falling is not a straight line, but an evolutionary spiral. With each cycle, the peak you reach is higher than the last, and the valley you navigate is less deep. This is the mechanism by which your average frequency, your vibrational center of gravity, gradually and irrevocably rises. The myth of linear growth is more than just a misunderstanding. It is a cage. It limits your potential by labeling a natural and necessary part of your journey as something to be feared and eliminated. The true measure of your progress is not found in the fleeting intensity of your peak experiences, but in the subtle, almost imperceptible rise of your baseline frequency. Many seekers abandon their path, convinced they are failing, simply because they have not been taught to recognize these quiet, profound signs of transformation. The internal observer, the scientist of your own soul, begins to notice the pattern over time. The emotional storms still come, but their intensity diminishes. The reactions that once threw you off balance for weeks now last only for a day, then an hour, then a moment. Meanwhile, the states of clarity, gratitude, and inner peace become more stable, more frequent, more resilient. This process does not eliminate the waves, but it raises the entire ocean. There is a taboo in modern spirituality around the vibrational fall. It is a forbidden subject, a secret shame. This phenomenon, which we can call the sacred dive, represents one of the most misunderstood and powerful aspects of authentic spiritual evolution. In the hidden circles of esoteric wisdom, the initiatory power of energetic descents was always revered. Medieval alchemical manuscripts refer to this phase as the nigredo, the blackening, the descent into chaos and dissolution that must precede any genuine transmutation. These coded texts describe how the journey into the abyss is not merely a tolerable stage of the process, but its very foundation. Let's consider a radical idea. What if your vibrational falls were not obstacles at all, but were portals? What if they were deliberately designed by a higher aspect of your own consciousness to accelerate your evolution? What if these moments of supposed regression contain the precise keys needed for your next great ascension? This perspective shatters the upward-only narrative. In the records of ancestral mystical traditions, we find consistent accounts of how periods of apparent relapse are, in fact, extraordinary opportunities for shadow integration. An ancient Sufi text compares the seeker to a pearl diver, who must descend into the crushing darkness of the ocean floor to retrieve the most valuable treasures. The metaphor reveals a sophisticated understanding of our inner oscillations as a natural mechanism for recovery and wholeness. When you experience a vibrational fall after a period of elevation, notice how specific psychological patterns, which you thought you had transcended, resurface with an almost violent intensity. This is not a sign of regression. It is proof that the evolutionary mechanism is working perfectly. Your newly expanded consciousness has finally developed the capacity to revisit these deeply embedded patterns with a new level of awareness and finally, truly, integrate them. Crystallized beliefs, emotional traumas, and limiting self-definitions do not simply evaporate when you have a moment of spiritual insight. They remain latent in your energetic field, waiting. They wait until you are strong enough, stable enough, and conscious enough to process them completely. The vibrational dive is the moment your consciousness signals that it is ready to do this essential work. A surprising pattern emerges from the study of advanced spiritual practitioners. Those who learn to consciously embrace their vibrational falls instead of resisting them report a dramatic acceleration in their development. Researchers have documented cases of what they call voluntary divers, practitioners who deliberately use their moments of energetic contraction to explore their shadow, and found that they integrate limiting patterns at a much faster rate than those who constantly strive for the light. This approach is the antithesis of the commercial spiritual industry, which profits by pathologizing these natural cycles. Who truly benefits when you are conditioned to fear the most powerful transformative tool you possess? The ancestral traditions knew the value of the valley so deeply that they developed rituals to honor it. Unlike modern practices that exclusively chase peak states, these traditions held ceremonies dedicated to the conscious exploration of denser frequencies. Participants were guided to fully inhabit the shadow, to find the wisdom hidden within it, before any attempt at ascension was made. This is the process of reclaiming the lost fragments of the soul. When we resist our vibrational falls, we inadvertently abandon essential parts of ourselves. These fragments, carrying priceless information and unrealized potential, remain locked away until we are courageous enough to dive down and bring them back into the light of our awareness. This is not just mysticism, it is profound psychology. Carl Jung's concept of shadow integration is a modern reflection of what ancient Taoist texts called embracing the yin to complete the yang. Internal fragmentation, which is the inevitable result of rejecting our falls, creates the very blockages that prevent genuine, sustainable development. The test of the dive was a central ritual in many ancient initiation ceremonies. The aspirant had to prove not only their ability to elevate their frequency, but more importantly, their ability to consciously navigate the depths without losing their center. This, not the fleeting ability to experience bliss, was the mark of a true initiate. The ultimate alchemical transmutation does not happen by avoiding the darkness, but by consciously embracing it. In this little explored territory lies the key to the integrated, whole, and empowered state we seek. The dive is not your failure. It is your most courageous act. What few seekers realize is that there is a mathematical precision governing these oscillations, an ancestral code that reveals the true, predictable nature of your evolution. This pattern, encoded in sacred geometry and the architecture of initiation temples, shows that your energetic fluctuations are not chaotic. Ancient Egyptian hierophants encoded this vibrational sequence into the proportions of the temples at Karnak. Contemporary analysis reveals mathematical ratios that correspond precisely to the relationship between the peaks and valleys of human spiritual development. This knowledge was considered sacred, transmitted only to those who were prepared to understand it. The famous Fibonacci sequence, which appears throughout the natural world, is merely one expression of a deeper mathematical system that governs the rhythm of consciousness itself. Pythagorean manuscripts described an ascending return spiral, where each energetic contraction becomes proportionally smaller in relation to the preceding expansion, following a precise mathematical ratio. We see this same fundamental pattern in traditions from every corner of the globe, from the Vedic numerological system to Mayan geometric codes. This cross-cultural convergence points to a universal truth about the mechanics of consciousness. If you observe your own journey with the dispassionate eye of a scientist, you will see this pattern. While your vibrational peaks reach progressively greater heights, the subsequent valleys rarely return all the way to your previous lowest points. This is the law of the ascending average. Even the descending component of the wave contributes to the overall elevation of your vibrational baseline over time. This average, this vibrational midpoint, is a far more significant measure of your spiritual development than any isolated peak experience. While modern spirituality often idolizes intense, ecstatic states, the ancient traditions evaluated progress by the stability and resilience of one's basal frequency, the calm, quiet center point between the oscillations. Sacred geometry preserved this knowledge in symbols like the Vesica Piscis and the flower of life. When interpreted correctly, these symbols reveal the pattern of intersection between ascending and descending cycles that results in a progressively elevated midpoint. It is not a coincidence that these symbols appear at spiritual initiation sites all over the world. A partially translated Sumerian manuscript describes how the movement between heaven and earth for 7 complete cycles permanently elevates the midpoint of being. This is the cosmic equation of your expansion. Your falls are not failures. They are essential variables. This understanding is profoundly empowering. When a practitioner understands the mechanics of their own oscillations, they stop fearing the momentary falls. They recognize them as calculated, necessary components of a much larger, progressive system. This fundamental confidence transforms their entire relationship with the journey, and it is here that something truly magical begins to happen. The universe itself begins to respond to this new, integrated state of being. There is a phenomenon that quantum physicists and mystics are both beginning to recognize: amplified post-fall synchronicity. Statistically significant clusters of meaningful coincidences occur most frequently and intensely in the period immediately following a deep energetic contraction. Carl Jung himself noted that synchronistic events intensified dramatically for his patients after periods of what he called psychic darkness. Modern experiments in quantum physics have shown that the state of entangled subatomic particles can be correlated with human emotional patterns, particularly during the transition from a descending to an ascending state. The very fabric of reality appears to be most responsive, most malleable during this precise moment of transition. The synchronistic web doesn't just manifest randomly. It activates with disproportionate intensity at the exact moment you begin your ascent from a vibrational fall. It is as if the universe holds its breath while you do your inner work in the valley, and then exhales with a wave of supportive, confirming, and magical coincidences the moment you begin to climb. This is the phenomenon of mirrored synchronicity. The outer world precisely reflects the content that you successfully integrated during your dive. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphogenetic fields offers a framework for this, suggesting that oscillations in our consciousness create corresponding ripples in the informational fields that structure physical reality. The implications are staggering. Your moments of greatest manifestative potential are not when you are at your vibrational peak. They are during the powerful upward trajectory after a consciously navigated fall. The deeper the valley you have integrated, the more powerful the synchronistic wave that is generated on your subsequent ascent. This inverts the entire modern manifestation paradigm. It isn't about maintaining a constant high vibe. It's about mastering the energetic differential created by the movement between states. This all leads to one ultimate destination, the complete inhabitation of the present moment, the portal of now. Ancient civilizations knew this state. Inscriptions in pre-dynastic Egyptian temples describe techniques for accessing this portal, where all timelines converge and all possibilities exist simultaneously. In the now, the past has been integrated through your dives, and the future is not a source of anxiety, but an open field of potential. Quantum mechanics confirms this, demonstrating that particles exist in all possible states only in the present, collapsing into a single reality through the act of conscious observation. In this state of pure presence, the frequency and significance of synchronicities intensify dramatically, becoming a continuous, flowing dialogue between you and the universe. This is the apex of the journey. To access the portal of now requires that you transcend identification with your personal history and your projections about the future. Precisely the psychological material that is illuminated and healed during your vibrational dives. The falls clear the debris of the past and future, allowing you to finally, fully, arrive in the only place where life actually happens. The ancient technique of chronological breathing, described in Essene manuscripts, offered a precise mechanism for inducing this state of intensified presence. The awakening of the inner scientist, the impartial, loving witness of your own entire spectrum, is the final key. You are not just observing your evolution, you are consciously navigating it. The illusion of linear ascension dissolves, replaced by the profound, elegant truth of the evolutionary spiral. The inner scientist awakens, and with it, your capacity to consciously and deliberately co-create with a universe that has been waiting for you to remember the language it speaks.